for the right reasons, time in, case out, every time. So we rebuild that trust for the public eye. And my goal is to do that, just that, follow the law so that people can see that the family court is being ran effectively, efficiently, and ethically.
Ms. Hendricks, same question.
Yes, my vision for family court is to close the chapter that we were just in and to start anew. In our field, we have something called de novo, which is basically a Latin term that says anew, or to start again. And that's what I want to do. I want to kind of start again, start fresh for Davis County, for the families and the members of Davis County. I want to run the courtroom ethically, with integrity. I want to take the responsibility to issue rulings timely. I want to take the law, the evidence that's presented before me, and I want to apply that to every case and to ensure that the members of Davis County and their families get opinions that affect their lives in a reasonable and timely manner.
Let's move on to our second question, and Ms. Hendricks, you'll be able to answer this one first. How would you manage a long and growing family court docket?
Well, luckily, the legislator passed or enacted where we have a second family court judgeship, which is going to help the workload tremendously. So where it was all falling on the Division 3, it will now be split up between Division 3 and Division 4. So that is going to help us. I think with that, again, running my own law practice and being a private and solo practitioner, time management is very important. So I think as a judge, it is something that I will ensure that cases don't go longer than needed. We don't have unnecessary hearings. Anytime that we can condense hearings or we can expedite hearings and do those things, I think that will help tremendously.
Mr. Vallandingham, your chance to answer.
First and foremost, Davis County Family Court is overdue for a motion hour in its civil practice, and we have to institute that. That's something that I had pressed for the last 6 years of getting it instituted, and unfortunately it had not been. That will allow cases to get on docket sooner and then off docket sooner. And it'll also help manage some of the smaller issues so we can get to more, setting larger hearings and longer hearings for more nuanced issues. I think having time limits and abiding by those time limits, not at the expense of justice, of course, but to manage the docket, to remove unnecessary reviews from our juvenile docket, ones that are needlessly being brought to the court every 60 days over and over when the child's in a relative custody. That's not required by statute. I also would like to encourage more settlements by being consistent in rulings. If the attorneys know that we're following the rules and giving opinions based on fact into the rules, they're going to be encouraging more settlements.
Let's move on to our next question. And Mr. Vallandingham, this time you get to go first. How would you build trust? We talked about that already, where trust may be presently. How would you build trust in the family court system here locally?
So the first hurdle that you have to cross when talking about building trust in the family court is that half or more of the docket is done confidentially. It's done outside of the public view. So it really becomes paramount that the person elected to the bench is someone that is trusted and proven to do things consistent with the law, comporting with their ethics, and for the betterment of our families and our children. One of the things that I think is important for people to know that judicial circuit court level, which is family court, is elected for 8 years. And if you add any incumbency rates, that means the people that you vote for in Division 3 and Division 4 more than likely will be making decisions for your families and children for the next generation of kids. And so it's really important to know that the person running court is doing so ethically, comporting with judicial ethics, announcing conflicts when they are, recusing when necessary, and following the letter of the law and applying the facts to the letter of the law.
Ms. Hendricks, how would you build trust?
Yes, trust is something that is definitely earned. It's not given to you. It's something that's going to take a little bit of time for everyone to learn to trust. But I think, again, on and off the bench, how you handle yourself is very important. I think when you issue rulings that are consistent, that you allow everyone and treat everyone with dignity and respect, you give everyone the time necessary to present their cases. You allow people to offer their proof, their evidence, their testimony in a timely manner. You issue rulings in a timely manner, and you also comport with the law. I think it's important, again, to hear the evidence, hear the testimony, hear the law, and then take that and apply it to your rulings. And I think that will show trust to this community.
Our next question deals with the sensitive nature of family court. It can be very emotional. How would you balance the mental and emotional aspects of a case with the rule of law? Ms. Hendricks, you can answer first.
Sure. I've been doing it for 10 years, so I'll continue to do it the way that I've been doing it. So I primarily practice in Davis County. I primarily do family law and have the entirety of my practice. I've done over 3,000 cases in Davis County alone, and each one of those has been emotionally and mentally draining at times. But every single day, I present to the court the evidence, the facts, and the law. And I will be doing the same thing, only I will be listening. And when I listen, I will take those facts, the evidence, the law, and I will make an appropriate ruling.
Mr. Vallandingham, same question. How would you balance the emotion and the rule of law if you win the seat?
Of course, and conflict management is what we do as family law practitioners and what we will have to do as a family law judge. I've also been having a decade experience. The last 10 years of my life has been spent primarily devoted to resolving these family law conflicts. And 3 of those years was spent as a staff attorney for a family court judge. And as one of the roles that we did, or what tasked to me, was mediating cases. So that's helping people navigate those emotional issues. And that's a similar thing that we have to do as practitioners, is meeting them where they're at, being sensitive to their concerns, knowing that this is an emotional issue for them, knowing that this is impacting the most important thing to them, their families and their children, but also keeping the presence of mind that we do not be overcome by our emotions, and that we keep ration and logic for the application of the rule of law front and center, because at the end of the day, if we consistently apply the law, everyone's going to get better results.
Let's move on to our 5th question now. And Mr. Vallandingham, you get to answer this one first. Drug abuse has grown more prevalent in our community. How has it affected the number of family court cases, and what factors do you look at when you think about handling those cases?
Absolutely. 3 of the things that impact family law cases most are drug abuse, mental health, and poverty. And oftentimes those 3 things are intertwined. So it's important when people come before the court with some sort of substance abuse issues that we are knowledgeable about the services available to them. Oftentimes those are relayed to them through the cabinet workers, but if I don't know what substance abuse treatment facilities or drug programs are available to our citizens of Davis County, I may not be able to craft a ruling that is best applicable for them, their situation, and what's going to eventually help them move forward past those demons. Working with our community partners is paramount to make sure that they have a good relationship with the family court. That is something that I will continue to do to make sure that there are avenues for people that need help to get that help.
And Ms. Hendricks, I'll repeat the question since it's a little long. Drug abuse has grown more prevalent in our community. How has it affected the number of family court cases, and what factors do you look at when handling those cases potentially?
It's definitely affected and caused an increase in family court cases, whether it be what we call JD&A, juvenile dependency, neglect, and abuse cases, or whether it is in divorce cases or custody cases. It's very prevalent, unfortunately. And I do think it's important to know the services that are available in Davis County. What in particular, for example, is a lot of times you have individuals that may have a drug problem, but they also have a mental health problem. So you can't send individuals to a drug rehab that doesn't address mental health. You need a dual diagnosis facility. You can't just treat one problem. There's a second problem that needs to be addressed as well. So I think it's important to know the needs of an individual. It's not cookie cutter. And it's important to see that and send them to the appropriate provider and not just put a Band-Aid on something, but to dig down deep and fix the problem.
How would your court work with community agencies that specialize in assisting families and children in need if you were to become the judge? Ms. Hendricks, you can go first.
Well, again, practicing primarily in family law, I have a relationship with a lot of providers, obviously here in Davis County, and I think I have a good working relationship with them. I think that that's important. Now, it's a little different in, again, what we call JDNA. JDNA court is a little more kind of like a village. It takes a lot of people to help each other. You can kind of reach out more. You can kind of be a little more involved. Where in family court cases with custody and divorce, it is not necessarily something where you're relying on the other party or the attorney to kind of help present that, and then you're able to rule or possibly send someone to a facility. But it's very important to know the services that are available and to work with community partners.
Mr. Vallandingham, your chance.
Of course, knowing the services, know the resources available so you can direct them to the proper one. But the primary agency that the family court's going to deal with is the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, specifically the Department of Community-Based Services, and just refer to them as the Cabinet. The Cabinet, unfortunately, statewide and also in Davis County, is in a little bit of a disarray, and that sets our clients and that sets our families and children back, especially when you're talking about juvenile dependency, neglect, or abuse cases, where the whole goal is to see a problem, fix a problem, and to try to reunify. And it's not an individual worker's fault. It's more systemic with funding issues, retention issues, and those things. And so while we have to be cognizant of those issues and those barriers that are affecting the Cabinet, we also have to hold them to the standard that is set by law. There are dates and deadlines that reports are needed, and the reason for those deadlines is so our family members know what is expected of them, know what the resources or the recommendations are that the Cabinet is making, and that we're not holding up court because of an administrative backlog.
Let's move on to now our final question for this session that we have prepared for you guys. And Mr. Vallandingham, you can go first. How would you work with the other family court judge that will now see in Davis County to maintain consistency among those two courts?
It is absolutely a blessing that we've got a second family court judge. And I think some of this is going to be based on who gets elected to that seat, regardless of who it is. But first and foremost, there's going to have to be a reexamination of our family court rules, having, like I said, scheduling motion hours to make sure that our days are not conflicting and that practitioners can utilize both courts. I would also make sure that the family court rules are up to date by way of guideline visitation, especially in light of the law change a few years ago that recommended or set the presumption of joint custody, 50-50 time sharing. So there are some things that we're going to have to update from our local rules. The bigger thing, and I think the biggest thing, is going to be managing our dockets that are so we can be effective in hearing our cases, but also not stepping on each other's toes in the process. So I think open lines of communication will always be my principle.
Ms. Hendricks, your chance to answer.
Yes, consistency is key. And I think it's important when having two judges now, that you don't want to get into a situation where people are what we call forum shopping. And so again, it will depend on the evidence, it will depend on the facts, of course, of how people rule and how the judges rule. But I do think it's important to run a courtroom consistently on both sides. I think it is important for us to communicate, again, about motion hours, setting motion hours. That is, again, something that I would love to do for quick motions. Also, I was a part of the committee that helped organize and create the first family court rules here in Davis County. I think as we implemented those, they need to be fixed and changed and tweaked a little bit. I think that that's important that we do that. Our rules are not even on the state website, so I think it's important to kind of upgrade and do some of those things. But I'm excited that if elected to be a part of this and work with another judge.
I'll let both of you catch your breath and gather your thoughts here for a second. That's the end of the prepared questions that we have for these two candidates. As we spoke about at the beginning of this session, they each also get an opportunity to give us a 60-second closing statement. And Ms. Hendrick, the way things have worked out, it's your chance.
Sure. Again, my name is Jennifer Hendricks, and I'm running to be your next Davis Family Court Judge, Division III. I believe I have a proven track record. My work ethic is unrivaled. I also have the experience and the knowledge. I've done the work, I'm doing the work, and I want to continue to do the work. Again, I've done over 3,000 cases here in Davis County, Kentucky alone. And with that, I've been able to look at various aspects of the law, whether it's easy, uncontested divorces where people agree, or where it's highly contested divorce cases or custody cases, where we have lots of assets, we have lots of money at stake, we have lots of property. And I've been able to delve into those, and I believe that I'm the best candidate to be your next Davis Family Court Judge, and I would appreciate your vote on November 8th.
Mr. Vallandingham, your closing remarks.
Yes, thank everyone that's in the audience and also tuning in. It's important that everyone is engaged in our civic discourse. I want to be your next Davis Family Court Judge because of looking back of what all Owensboro and Davis County has given me. It's given me a strong, nurtured beginning with family. It's given me quality education, a business that's been well supported, and my wife, and a church home. And I want the same stability for every family member in Davis County. I want the same stability for every child that has the pleasure of growing up here like I did, born and raised here. And with that, I think what is going to be necessary for the next family court judge is to have the right temperament, the right experience, and the right knowledge. And that three combination of things, I think, makes me uniquely qualified to serve as your next Davis Family Court Judge. Thank you.
That ends this session. Thanks to everybody who took the time to watch at home and who will watch at home. Thanks to each of the candidates for being here with us in person and their supporters as well. We also want to thank the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame and Museum for allowing us to use their facility this evening. We also want to give our sponsor, Jerry Ray Davis, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, another thank you. November 8th is Election Day, like these candidates mentioned. Coming up next, we'll have another family court judge race here and Town Hall represented. Ladies and gentlemen, our first session, your family court judge candidates.